when it came to that last game, I see some people asking about maybe Solo diversifying his army composition. So this is something that a lot of the top Zerg players have been doing in late game ZvT. Serral, Raynor, Solar as well. Is you actually stay on a Lair Tech army. You stay on Lingbane Hydra. Obviously, you get a Hive and you get your upgrades and you can go for some Lurker Harass. But your goal here is to be hyper maneuverable. You get a really, really insane and solid economy, and you just trade. You just trade and trade and trade and trade, and you just deny bases. And there's not meant to be too much longevity with your army because you have so many drones, so you don't have a large army supply. You get up to 90 to 100 workers. And you just constantly push in and take down planetaries, take down CCs, and that's what we saw last game in that last semifinals. But here we are in the grand finals of ESL Open Cup Americas, number 175. In the bottom left-hand corner of Altitude, we have our Canadian Protoss player representing Team Basilisk. It is Trigger. Setting up the predictions. Okay, there we go. And spawning in the top right-hand corner of Altitude, we have as opponent, we have the South Korean Zerg player representing Onside Gaming. It is Solar. Predictions open. Here we go. Has the background always been Jagannatha? Yes. Fun factor for us in the chat. We do have the technology to change the background, but it has always been Jagannatha. That's can confirm. But here we go. We're here in the grand finals, a best of 5. Bear that in mind when it comes to your predictions, that it is not a best of 3. That it is going to be a longer series. And we'll see how this does unfold. Trigger going for a gate expand into Cybercore, standard opener here from Trigger. Likewise, same can be said for Solar. Nothing too crazy here on Altitude. You love to see it. As we are on a much larger map, of course, both players had 1 veto each. I imagine Neo Humanity would have been 1 veto. I imagine Dragon Scales would have been the other. But we'll see. We'll see. As we aren't privy to the vetoes. Yeah, we don't know. We don't know. Here we go. With our Cybercore finishing up, Trigger should be deciding on his tech momentarily. Based on this pylon positioning, I imagine it's going to be a Stargate opener, and there it is. Stargate is going to be thrown down. So we are going to be getting into a standard game here, or what looks to be a standard setup. I don't think Trigger has been one to take from what's been trendy recently and go from an Oracle into a faster Nexus into Glaive Adepts. I don't think Trigger is one to do that, but we'll see. If he does whip that out at some point in this series, I don't think Altitude is the best map for it. But because it isn't, maybe it's unexpected. So maybe Glaive Adepts can catch Solar off guard if we do go for that. Until then, though, Solar is going to go for a bit of a Link Scout, is going to slip into the main, is going to confirm not just the Stargate, but he also sees the first unit coming out. He's aware of the Oracle. So Solar's going to be able to drone up back at home. We do see Trigger trying to be annoying here with his Adept, trying to poke and prod, and looking at the units tab here. Wasn't able to get a drone. Just a single link for his troubles, as the Adept does threaten that third base once again. But from here, Solar, he's free to drone. We have our Spore on the way as well at the third base. Should be getting one in the main momentarily. Oracle is moving out. As the Oracle moves out, the Lings move in, looking to try and deny that third base. Oh, but they gambled wrong. He went for the triangular third when really the linear third was taken. Is going to get the probe at least and may get the Adept as well. At the same time, the Oracle gets across the map. Oh, it takes a lot of hits though. And these Lings have gotten a little bit out of hand. They get a probe and Adept. Ideally, they were looking to delay this third base, but again, they did head to the wrong third base location initially, or they guessed the wrong one, and the third base did go up. Meanwhile, behind this, it isn't going to be Glaive Adept as a follow-up. It is going to be a Twilight Council and a Forge, so this should be for +1 Blink Stalkers, or +1 Charge. I know that's kind of been another follow-up that has been a little bit popular. But again, I don't think this is a good map for Charge either, so +1 Blink would make the most sense here for Trigger. As Solo's just saturating his bases, taking his gases, getting his queens in position. Speaking of, the Oracle is looking to dive into the natural, but no, the queens are here. Likewise, the Lings also check the wall, but the wall is a wall, so Lings are forced back. And yeah, especially because altitude is the largest map in the map pool, we're going to be getting into a longer, more macro-oriented game here. Getting into our additional gateways. I imagine Trigger is going to be staying back at home. I imagine he is going to be going for his Robo into Colossus production as well. We'll see. We'll see if he tries to push out before that happens. As we still don't have a Robo from Trigger, which is intriguing me, to be honest. Typically, we would see one by now if we were planning to be a little bit more defensive and go into Colossi. But no, we're just focusing on our gateways for now. There we go. We have the Temple Archives and the Robo. This does feel delayed. We had the resources banked up for a while. I think this may have slipped Trigger's mind. I don't think these were intentionally delayed here, unfortunately. As Solo is going to be going for a bit of a counterattack. Ooh, and these Stalkers are getting caught out. Blink isn't done. One Stalker goes down. The second Stalker as well. This does force Trigger to turn back around. And he was in the middle of getting ready to clean up this creep. And he loses an Oracle for it as well. Trigger has to back off. He has to respect the position here of Solar. Meanwhile, interesting. Okay, there's a reason why I guess we delayed that Robo, because we're not getting into Colossi. I was like, mate, I feel like if we want Colossus, this Robo is late. What's going on? My mistake, Papi. We're going for Storm instead. Oh. But before that happens, the Lings are on top of that 4th base. They do force a cancel. They do keep Trigger contained on 3 bases that much longer. But yeah, going for Storm like this is very different, is what I'll say. Very different. Very risky as well. Relying on these energy-based units, and before that happens, Solar, he is droned up to 69. And nice! He is making nothing but Ling Roach Ravager. He's pushing out across the map. The first Immortal is going to be going down. Storm isn't done. We have a bunch of High Templar, and they can't do anything. The wall is not a wall this time. The Roaches, they get into the natural. And Arctosis Pylon! No! Oh, it is going to depower the gateways. Thankfully, it doesn't depower the Robo. Thankfully. As the Storm is done, it does rain down upon these Roaches. But Storm merely tickles Roaches. As we see Solar getting into... Oh my god, getting into the natural. But the Storms are insane! Oh my god! Some of the most value Storms that we've seen. But Solar is still maxing out behind this, still just sending everything he has across the map. The Roaches, the Ravagers, the Lings. And Trigger just doesn't have enough to defend. Again, that Robo was delayed, so we only got 1 Immortal out. Storm, not ideal here against a match Roach army either. And Stalkers are good, but we just don't have that many right now. GG gets called, and Solar will take game number 1. GG. Again, Solar just cutting workers are at 69. I said it in the previous series, how specifically in ZvT, Solar, he doesn't typically initiate too much aggression. But specifically in ZvP, like, he is one that is willing to cut workers at around 66, around that mark, to just pump out nothing but Roach Rav, or Lingbane Roach Rav, and just push out across the map. We see it a lot on Grassvan. Less so on Altitude, which is why I was caught off guard. And Trigger was as well. I was like, oh my god, Solar's going for this. So, yeah, a little bit unexpected on Altitude, but, you know, it did work out in the end here for Solar. It does take a lead in this series. Didn't really show anything fancy off, but neither did Trigger. And now we're getting ready for game number 2, which will be taking place on Gresvan. Oh, let's go. Also, I would love some breakfast after this. I have some ramen noodles with my name on it. Let's go. Let's go. So jumping into our second game here, another large map, but despite it being large, can sometimes lead to some aggression. And here we go, spawning in the bottom right-hand corner of Gresvan. We have the Canadian Protoss player representing Team Basilisk, currently down in this series, but not out. We have plenty more games ahead of us. It is Trigger. And spawning in the top left-hand corner of Gresvan, we have as opponent, we have the South Korean Zerg player representing Onside Gaming. It is Solar. Again, Trigger trying to be a little bit fancy last game, going for Storm, or kind of delaying his splash damage to go for Storm instead. Was a risky maneuver, as we saw, is not designed to face off against heavy Roach Ravager compositions. It does do quite well against Ling Bane. And that is typically what we see against the hero style, right? Against these Blink Stalker based pushes, Archons and Storm can do quite well. But because Trigger wasn't really asserting himself on the map with those Stalkers, Solar didn't really have too much of a reason to make Lings, and he was working on +1 range instead. He was always working on that more Roach based composition instead. And yeah, he was lucky enough to, you know, run into an army that lacked too much to deal with it. Lacked Disruptors, Colossi, Immortals, too many, if any, robo units. And also a Protoss player that was focusing on expanding, less so on making an army. So Trigger, unfortunately, he didn't see the push coming until it was too late. He was still in the middle of trying to take his 4th base as well. So, yeah, we'll see. We'll see how this does go. Again, standard openers all around. What we have seen a lot of on Gresvan is a lot of Zerg players going for those low drone count Roach all-ins. When I say low drone count, I mean like 3 base saturation, around 60 plus workers, sub 70 workers is what I should say. And yeah, they can be really intense and really brutal, pretty similar to that last game. But because they're more commonly seen on Gresvan, I imagine Trigger is going to be keeping that in the back of his head and that much more aware of that possibility, especially after game 1. So I do kind of like Trigger's chances a little bit more here on Gresvan, but we'll see how it does all unfold. As once again, we do have a Stargate opener coming out from our Protoss player, as to be expected. I don't know, even on the smaller maps, I don't know if Trigger is going to be going for a Twilight Council opener. Maybe if we do end up on Dragon Scales, or yeah, maybe Royal Blood as well. Sorry, not Royal Blood. What's the other one? Babylon, that's it. Maybe on Babylon, that wouldn't be a bad map for a Twilight Council opener, but we'll see, we'll see. As for now, it's going to be that Oracle first. Solar, he slips into the main base with that Ling, confirms the Stargate, confirms the Oracle itself is aware of what's going on. Once again, just like the previous map, Trigger is trying to take advantage of this triangular 3rd base and rain down from that cliff face some glaives. But Solar, you know, just a little bit of lost mine time, he does preserve his workers. And we'll see if Trigger can get into his game this time. Now, even though I was talking about how Zerg players can be aggressive on Gresvan, likewise so can Protoss players. And the last time we saw Trigger was earlier in the tournament in a PvZ where Trigger went for a Twilight Council follow-up without a Forge. He just went for a mass Blink push. I think it was off of 7 gates. And his Blink micro and his Blink control was insane. Like, Trigger just killed his opponent, only losing 2 Stalkers. It was crazy. If people were here earlier, I'm sure they remember. It was an hour or maybe 2 hours ago now. Like 2 hours ago. But it was really impressive. I was shocked by how well Trigger was performing the all-in. And it looks like he may be looking to do it again. Oh god, no! Oh, as an Oracle almost goes down. No, the Lings, they slip in, and this is disastrous. Why? The Lings are going to be able to get a full scout, and what do they see, and what do they not see? They see a Twilight Council, they don't see a Forge. So this kind of looks like Glaive Adepts. It could be Glaive Adepts, or it could be that Blink Stalker push as well. Regardless, because there's no Forge, we're not going to have too much longevity with this push. Or in this game, even. Show it to us. Show us the Blink or the Glaives. There it is. It is going to be that Blink all in, and Solar already has a piece of the puzzle. He already knows. And Solar is not letting his opponent get into the game. Solar, he is getting his creep highway set up and running. He's welding his queens across the map. He's cutting workers at 42, not even 60. 42 workers is all he needs, and he's going to be rushing Lings and Roaches across the map. Trigger is now aware of what's going on. He's setting up here at his third base. We have 4 shield batteries on the way, some backup pylons as well. But are they going to finish in time? Here we go. The stasis trap does get triggered. Plows are going to be connecting here on the morphing in shield batteries. We do have an overcharge. But another shield battery is going to be going down, and the Stalkers are being zoned away from the shield batteries. They're being pushed towards the natural, where the natural is so exposed. We have an overcharge, but what is it keeping alive? Shield battery does go down. Solar had the option to go for the natural, but no, he goes for the third base first. Well, he goes for both. He wants it all, Bobby. He wants it all. The files, they connect. An Arctosis pylon goes down, denies the warp in. GG gets called. And Solar takes game number 2. GG. Once again, Trigger has a plan. He tries to get into his game, tries to get into the mid game, or in this case, tries to get into his own aggression. But Solar is there to undercut him every time. GG. And unfortunately, once again, Trigger wasn't aware of what was happening until it was too late. He was more focused with his own build. His oracles were busy back at home because the Lings kept going for those run-bys as well. And interesting. I wonder what the vetoes were, because I guess one of them was near humanity, but the other was not Dragon Scales, because Game 3 will be taking place on Dragon Scales. Let's go. Oh boy, here we go. And it could all end here and now. This could be the final game of the series. Oh boy, Solo looking so powerful. Our Protoss player here trying to come back, trying to get into his game. Can he do it all here and now in Game 3? As spawning in the bottom right-hand corner of Dragon Scales, we have the Canadian Protoss player representing Team Basilisk, the red Protoss. He's up against the wall, one more loss, and that will be the end of the series. He has to bring it back here and now. It is Trigger. And spawning in the top left-hand corner of Dragon Scales, we have his opponent. We have the South Korean Zerg player representing Onside Gaming, one of the best Zerg players in the world. It is Solar. Solar just moving out a little bit here to make sure that he doesn't get pylon blocked. He will be able to get his natural base up and running on location as well. No unnatural natural for Solar. Not this time. And yeah, we'll see how this all does unfold. Again, Dragon Scales is one of the smaller maps in the map pool, which is why I assumed that it was vetoed. But alas, it was not. So I'm curious as to what the other veto was actually. Maybe it was Babylon then. That would be the other pick. But regardless, Trigger looking to try and come back here. Going for a gate expand. Standard opener. Nothing too crazy from Trigger. But now that we're on Dragon Scales, is this where we switch things up? Is this where we go for a Twilight Council opener? I think so. I think this is where we want to risk it. I do think that because the rush distance is a lot shorter, Twilight Council openers can have more success as well. In a way, they can maybe be a little bit more obvious, of course, but I feel like we need to do something different. I feel like we need to switch things up here in this series if we want to try to make a series out of it. We'll see. See what Trigger does decide on. As the Cybercore is about to finish up, Pylon is here towards the gas geyser. Doesn't scream Stargate, but could still be. As there we go, it is going to be that Stargate thrown down for Trigger. Standard opener once again. He's not mixing things up, at least not this early on. Again, this series, Trigger has been, like, doing his own thing in a way. Like, game 1, he was going for Storm. Game 2, he was going to be going for the Blink All In as well. He just hasn't been able to execute his builds. Keeps getting shut down in the prime of his life, you know? We'll see if he can get there this time. Again, he's playing against Solar. The problem is that Solar, he is like born and raised in the same region as Hero, you know? And Hero is hyper aggressive. Hero is always in your face with adepts, with oracles, with blink stalkers as well. So Solar, he is so accustomed to just likewise meeting that aggression head on. And we can see that kind of getting out of hand here in this series. Trigger is going to be taking his third base as well on location. Adept just looking to shade in, trying to figure out what is going on. Again, so far, the droning is quite normal. It's too early to really recognize if we are going to be going for a committed push later on. One drone does get picked off. Nicely done. Oh, the Oracle wants some more. Oh, does get a second drone. Not too bad. 2 drones for 1 adept. Meanwhile, we have our second Oracle coming out. We have a third Oracle behind this as well. Again, this is all looking pretty normal. Lings are here to deny him though, and both Oracles are across the map. This third base is exposed. There we go. Thankfully, we do have a warp in. We are going to be focusing down the shield battery, and it looks like we will not get it. Trigger will hold on to his third base. And across the map, he gets 3 more drones. Pretty good. I think this is maybe the best start we've had so far for Trigger. I don't think he's dealt as much economic damage as he has this game so far. So pretty good stuff overall. Behind this, we have a Twilight Council and a Forge. This time, again, a standard follow-up as well. Going to be going into +1 and Blink Stalkers. We'll keep an eye on that gate count. As the 3 Oracles do zoom across the map, trying to poke in, trying to find some damage. Get another 2 drones. Oh, they have to be careful not to overextend though. As 1 Oracle finally does go down, and soon followed by the second Oracle as well. But there is no Spore here at the third. Solar falling apart a little bit here this game in the defense. 7 drones, 12 in total. My god. He did kill 2 Oracles though. And that's what makes it a little bit difficult, is that Solar has lost a lot of workers, but Oracles provide so much utility in the mid game here, especially when we rely on Blink Stalkers, and that's why we're remaking the Oracles. There we go. 4th Oracle is on the way after losing the first 2. Like, Oracles with their stasis traps, with their pulsar beams as well, they are so necessary for Trigger's army. Meanwhile, Solar goes for the full scout. He confirms the forge, so he knows that, okay, this is a standard hero-style follow-up from the Triple Oracle. And now Trigger can be a little bit more aggressive. Lings do counterattack across the map. They do get one Stalker for their troubles. Meanwhile, Solar's droning. He's getting his 4th base. He's taking his gases, working up to 5 gases. Getting fully saturated. And once again, he's not getting +1 melee. He's going for +1 range, so he's going to be relying a lot more on Roach Ravager, less so on Lings, at least for now. You see Trigger trying to be as active as he can, bearing in mind that Trigger doesn't have Blink, so his army is quite vulnerable, but he's, puffing up his chest. He's pushing back the creep, pushing back Solar, taking a 4th base behind this. Now he's getting into the rest of his gateways. As Blink finally does finish up, and now he's going to be a little more safer, a little more secure. The Oracles are behind this as well, just in case the Lings go for a wraparound. Speaking of, the Lings do go for a counterattack and they get a handful of probes. Two probes go down. They're the stasis traps that we were talking about. Oh, but the wall is not a wall. Somehow the Lings of Soul, they find even more damage. They get into the mineral line. 3 probes go down. And they slip into the main for a full scout. At the same time, we push on forward, but no, the stasis trap does get triggered. Well, Solar has to be very careful here with his Roach army. Has to be careful not to lose too much. Meanwhile, we're getting a longer game. Trigger has successfully gotten up to 4 bases. Solar likewise is saturating his own 4th, going to be working on his 5th as we speak. We've got 1-1 on the way. Infestation Pit just finished up so we can get into Hive Tech, we can get into Adrenal Glands. Oh my god, but these bases, they just keep being left exposed. So we do force a recall. Meanwhile, there's that Hive we were talking about. So again, Lingbane Roach Ravager should be the composition that Solar stays on for quite some time, and Adrenal Glands will help with that. As Lings are what you want against the Mass Blink Stalker. So here we go. The Stalker count is getting a little bit out of control, but oh my god, once again, the wall is not a wall. And the problem is that we already recalled. We already recalled back home earlier. It is on cooldown. These roaches are going to be doing an insane amount of damage. At the same time, Trigger, he is forced to commit. He's forced to find some damage here as well. He loses a couple of those Stalkers. Meanwhile, the Roaches, they get 7 probe kills, and they're not done. They go into the main base for even more. So far, they've got a 9 in total. They've gotten a couple of Zealots. They're getting a Stalker as well. Eventually, they'll be cleaned up. But Solar is able to hold. Meanwhile, Trigger, he's done taking all these run-bys. He wants to get away with some of his own. He goes for a Zealot run-by here on the left-hand side. Reinforcements are looking to intercept. The Zealots don't get any economic damage. And Trigger is trying to push forward. But again, his attention is being split because Solar's going for another counterattack. He wants to try to punish this 5th base. Trigger can't gain any ground here on the front lines. He's been trying to. But here we go. The Ling, Bane, Roach is about to rock up. The 4th base, sorry, the 5th base is looking very exposed. The Oracles aren't here to support these Stalkers either, which means Stalkers are getting picked up. 2 Stalkers go down. The Banelings are headed for the mineral line as well. We do have a force field, a very clutch force field, but it's not going to be enough. The Banelings, they get in and they annihilate every single worker here. Ooh. 16 probes go down. At the same time, on the left-hand side of the map, we do see Trigger gaining some ground, but has he overextended? We do have plenty of Lings looking to chase Trigger down. At least he gets his 5th base up. But for how long? For how long that is the question, because Solar, he hasn't been staying on Ling Bane Roach Ravager. He actually didn't make any Ravages at all, so he's been being very conservative with his gas, and we see why. He threw down a Hydra Den, he's got a Lurker Den on the way with Lurker upgrades. He's going to be switching into Lunkers, and Blink Stalkers have a really hard time playing against that. Without Immortals, without Skytoss, without Robo-based units, I don't know how Trigger responds to Lurkers. But we're not there yet. To be fair, we are not there yet. As the overcharge is popped back at home. Trigger gaining some ground here at the third base. Oh god, but he is getting surrounded. He's losing a little bit too much. We do see Solo coming in from behind as well. But so's Trigger. Solo does force Trigger to back off. Lurkers are now in production. And we don't have enough to break through these Stalkers yet, but everything changes when the Lurkers arrive. As the Lurkers are on the way. Stalkers trying to trade as best they can. Before that happens, they are going to be able to get on top of some of these Hydras. They have at least spotted them. But we don't have a Trigger transitioning his army yet. I don't think he really knows what is going on, or like what the tech path is. Meanwhile, Sully comes in from behind. Oh, we get a mass surround. The Stalker army, it crumbles. The Banelings were waiting for him. Stasis traps go off, but only on a handful of units, as Solar is not stopping. Solar, he breaks in towards this fourth base once again for the second time. Shield battery overcharge is not going to be enough. The shield battery goes down. Meanwhile, we do have a massive Zella run by, but the Lurkers are back at home to defend. Solar, he counterattacks, kills the base, and he'll also be able to defend his own base back at home as well. With the revelation of these Lurkers, Trigger may just be forced to tap out. He's going to try to hold on here at his third. He's morphing in whatever he can. But again, he's still working with a purely gateway army. Thankfully, the Lurker count's low, but GG gets called. Solar takes game number 3 and the series 3-0. Which one? Hey. GG, well played. With that, Solar is going to be this week's ESL Open Cup Americas number 175 champion. GG, well played. A really solid showing there by Solar. Trigger was looking really impressive leading up to the finals. He took down Gumiho and Bjorn. Clearly, Trigger's PvT is on point. Clearly, his PvT is where he excels. But against the Zerg, against Solar, it's a bit of a different beast. It is a bit of a different matchup, and to be fair, Solar was hyper-aggressive in the first 2 games. In game number 3, we saw a little bit more macro-oriented play. Trigger was able to get into the swing of things, but unfortunately, he had a hard time really establishing his economy because the run-bys were insane. Whether it was Ling counterattacks or Roach counterattacks or Baneling run-bys, Trigger was having a hard time keeping up with all those counterattacks from Solar, and that just made Trigger's pushes that much weaker as well. So he was never able to gain any ground. Outside of the initial Oracle harass, he wasn't able to really kill too many workers or deny any bases or kill any hatcheries. Solar was just always either in his face or across the map. GG. GG, well played. And congratulations to Solar, and also shout out to Trigger as well. Trigger making it to the finals here is a very impressive feat, and I don't want to take away from that. It was really well done. Trigger is one of the best Protoss in North America for a reason, and he's looking to get better and better. Again, some of these other matchups are something that he still has to work on, but alas, again, his PvT, it's on point, Bobby, on point. GG. And with that, I hope everyone enjoyed themselves. You know, we had a relatively solid broadcast here today. 4 hours. Beautiful, amazing. Oh, 'Tis beautiful, 'tis amazing. As that wraps up our tournament for this afternoon. GG, well played. Oh boy, it was a pretty solid tournament overall. We got to see a lot of players that I haven't seen in quite some time. Like Ruichi, for example, like Mixu as well. It was really great to see them. We got to see a little bit of Eric, Eric versus Yo-Yo earlier, and Trigger was able to shine through as well. So yeah, GG, well played. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful tournament. And yeah, I hope everyone enjoyed themselves. Our next broadcast is going to be later on tonight. Not set in stone, but it's going to be around 6 or 7 p.m. AEST. We're going to be casting the Funky Open Tournament. What the hell is that? What does that mean? Dave Testa, one of the other community casters out there, did host a tournament featuring new maps, featuring the new TLMC maps, and we have been given permission to cover the replays and to cast those matches ourselves. So we will be covering that in 5 to 6 hours. Again, it's a replay cast, and so I'm gonna get some food first and get some rest, and I should be ready for it. It should be fine. I believe Asher will be joining me as well for at least some of those matches. So something to look forward to. As of course, that is going to be our second broadcast later on tonight. Otherwise, we're done here for this morning. If you want to tune into more of the CranKy Ducklings, we're live every day, usually multiple times a day as well, with some StarCraft casting. You know, with plenty of tournaments like ESL Open Cup Asia, ESL Open Cup Americas, Kung Fu Cup, Korean StarCraft League, World Team League, and our own tournaments as well, like GPO, STC, TTT. Our schedule is, and even some replay casts, like our schedule is typically really full, and we've had a pretty intense couple of months already. So if you like our casting, consider following us. We have a Twitter, we have an Instagram, we have a YouTube, we have a Discord server as well, where you can interact with us outside of just the broadcast if you're interested. So yeah, consider following us. Exclamation mark socials in the chat. Oh, there we go. As of course, we tied for IR. Unbelievable. GG. See the chat catching up. But if you want to support us as well, you can consider subscribing on Twitch or becoming a patron on Patreon. We do give all of our patrons and all of our subscribers replay packs. Not replay packs of this tournament, but of other tournaments like the OSC events or the tournaments that we host as well. So plenty of replay packs are available if you're interested. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching, everyone. Thank you so much for the support. If you want to tune into more of myself, I do solo stream on my personal channel, light_VIP on Twitch and Twitter. I stream throughout the week, but I typically don't stream days when we're casting. Like, if we're busy casting, then I usually try to rest in between the casts, not ladder, because that's probably a bad idea. It's not a good thing, Bobby. It's not a good thing. We need to rest. So, yeah, with that, consider following us. Our next broadcast is going to be, again, in 5 to 6 hours. Tomorrow, our next broadcast is going to be... Let's quickly check. I think tomorrow is KFC. Yes. Tomorrow, our next broadcast is going to be Kung Fu Cup, aka KFC. It's amazing. It's beautiful. It's not healthy, but you enjoy it. You enjoy it in the moment. Tomorrow evening at 9 p.m. AEST is going to be Kung Fu Cup, so plenty more StarCraft to come throughout the week. Consider tuning in. With that, thank you so much everyone for watching. Thank you so much for the support. Shout out to Solar, to Trigger, to all the players, to all the competitors here today. Clem as well. Clem, you know, had a solid run, making it to the semifinals as well as beyond. They all walk away with some money, and we'll see you guys later on tonight. Until then, bye. Ciao.